Something remarkable is happening in West Africa, and surprisingly, the world is silent about it. Without grand announcements or international approval, 3 African countries, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, have taken a bold and unprecedented step toward financial independence. They've launched their own bank. Not just any bank, but one that symbolizes a deeper shift in how these nations view themselves, their sovereignty, and their future. The newly established institution is called the Confederate Bank for Investment and Development. The name may sound technical, but its implications are revolutionary. This is not a symbolic gesture or a public relations campaign. This is a powerful tool designed to finance African development with African resources, on African terms. What makes this move so significant is not only the creation of the bank itself, but the broader context in which it was created. These are not the continent's wealthiest or most globally influential countries. In fact, these are nations often associated with military coups, sanctions, and chronic underdevelopment. Yet, in the face of adversity, they are reshaping the narrative, quietly and deliberately. The Confederate Bank was born from a shared frustration. For decades, these countries have been subject to the conditionality of foreign aid. They were expected to prove their worthiness, to follow reform blueprints written far away, and to rely on donors and institutions whose priorities didn't always align with their own. Infrastructure projects were approved or delayed by foreign boards. Loans came with strings. Sovereignty was bartered for funding. But now, something has shifted. The leaders of these nations are no longer asking for permission. They're building their own instruments of power. The bank started with a base of 500 billion CFA francs. That's around $820 to $833 million. A large sum for countries that were told they couldn't fund themselves. And what's more, this money didn't come from outside. It came from within. It came from national reserves, local contributions, and the belief that growth can and should be self-determined. This bank isn't about slogans. It's not about ideology. It's about function. It exists to support local infrastructure, industrial development, agriculture, and other key sectors that foreign lenders are often too cautious or too political to touch. For years, external financing required these nations to meet criteria set by people who had never visited their villages, walked their roads, or seen the needs up close. But now the metric for success is different. The only goal is whether the bank's projects improve the lives of the local population. Let me pause for a moment to thank you, our dedicated viewers and loyal supporters of Voice of Africa. Your commitment, your feedback, and your passion for stories that truly matter are what keep this platform alive. Whether you're a long-time subscriber or a new member just joining our community, I am grateful for every comment, like, and share. You make it possible for us to bring untold stories to light and give Africa the narrative it deserves. Back to the story. What we're witnessing isn't just economic maneuvering. It's a quiet revolution. These 3 countries, once deeply integrated into a regional economic system linked to the CFA franc and broader monetary alliances, are making a clean break. They've exited traditional unions. They've redefined military relationships. And now, with this bank, they've drawn a new financial boundary. It's not a rejection of collaboration. It's a reassertion of agency. The media has largely ignored this development. There has been no global debate, no think tank papers flooding social media. It's as if the world is pretending this move doesn't exist. But make no mistake, this silence is not accidental. To acknowledge the bank is to acknowledge something far more consequential, that African nations can build, lead, and manage their own institutions without external control, that they can redefine the rules of engagement. The lack of external reaction is telling. It reveals an unease, not about instability, but about the possibility of success outside traditional frameworks. Because if this bank works, and it very well could, then the precedent it sets will be profound. Other nations may follow. A model of self-financing free from the pressure of external creditors could spread. And with it, a new chapter in Africa's development story might begin, written by Africans themselves. This isn't a tale born from ambition alone. It's born from exhaustion. These nations have spent years playing by the rules set for them. Every administration was expected to receive foreign envoys, pledge allegiance to reform programs, and cut ribbons on projects that, in reality, went nowhere. Airports were built but remained empty. Roads were paved but led to nothing. The cycle repeated itself with little to show for it. Aid was supposed to be the answer, but in many cases it only deepened dependence. So now they've chosen another way. Not by protesting, not by demanding sympathy, but by quietly doing the work themselves. This kind of initiative requires more than money. It requires belief. Belief that it's possible to design systems from the ground up. Belief that solutions need not always come from abroad. Belief that the Sahel, so often described in terms of fragility, can be a place of innovation, agency, and transformation. The Confederate Bank is not trying to become a global giant. It isn't meant to rival multilateral institutions overnight. But what it does offer is flexibility. It allows nations to direct funds where they are needed most without waiting months or years for approvals. It enables investment in programs that benefit local farmers, entrepreneurs, and workers rather than foreign contractors. It puts the power of the purse back where it belongs, in African hands. And importantly, it creates a buffer against future shocks. These countries have been sanctioned, isolated, and excluded in recent years. Yet instead of folding under pressure, they've chosen to prepare. This bank is part of that preparation. It strengthens internal resilience. It builds economic muscle. It makes them harder to destabilize. What's equally impressive is how they've done this without theatrics. There were no celebrity endorsements, no elaborate launch events, no international panels. The announcement was made, the doors were opened, and the work began. This discipline, this focus on results over recognition, reflects a maturity that is often overlooked in discussions about the region. Now, of course, the road ahead won't be easy. Building a bank is one thing. Making it effective is another. Challenges will arise, technical, logistical, even political. But the foundation has been laid. The intention is clear, and the first steps have been taken. More importantly, the symbolism of the bank is likely to reverberate far beyond finance. It is part of a larger conversation about what it means to be truly sovereign, about who gets to decide the priorities of a nation, about how development is defined and by whom. For decades, African voices were often seen as secondary in global economic conversations. Now, with institutions like this, they are creating their own tables, their own blueprints, and their own standards. This isn't isolationism. It's self-respect. It's dignity. It's the realization that development doesn't have to mean dependence. And while many in the world may not be watching, we are. Here on Voice of Africa, we are paying attention. Because this matters. This is history in the making, whether the headlines say so or not. As we continue to follow this story, we'll be asking the questions that matter. How will the bank operate in the long term? Will other countries join or support the initiative? Can it serve as a model for others? And most of all, what kind of future is being built, quietly, confidently, in the heart of the Sahel? Thank you for being part of this journey. If you believe in African stories told with depth, respect, and nuance, make sure to stay connected with us. We have much more to uncover together. Until next time, stay informed, stay inspired, and keep your eyes on Africa.